Hello, my name is Pastor Eric Shafer. I am the senior pastor here at Mount Olive Lutheran Church in Santa Monica, California, and this is Hope Matters. Each week, we talk to an interesting person from around the USA about the theme of hope, because we believe that hope matters. My guest today is my dear friend Stephanie Shields, who is a financial advisor to earn money, and in her spare time is a very active participant in Habitat for Humanity work in the US and around the world. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. So Stephanie, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thank you. I've been looking forward to this.
Stephanie, you're a lifelong Lutheran and you're involved in helping people with their finances. I know that you have a feeling about how that's a calling as a layperson. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, it's interesting because I didn't in the beginning over 25 years ago go into this career or line of work thinking that that's what it was going to be, was a calling, but I very quickly realized that's absolutely what it is. It's not about the numbers necessarily. It's all about the relationships and helping people move from a place of maybe insecurity or instability to a point where they feel they have surplus, which is once again not always defined by a certain amount of money, but more of the type of lifestyle that they want to be able to lead, particularly around giving back and being generous. And that is definitely in line with my philosophy of our personal living in my family, and that's been a great joy of being able to do the kind of work that I do.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. I should tell our viewers that I got to know Stephanie because I met her husband, who is an ELCA pastor, now retired, young retired, and he and I were on the staff of the ELCA stewardship department together some years ago, and then after some time, Chris and I met Stephanie too. So Stephanie, you and Bob, your husband, have done a lot of work with Habitat for Humanity. I know you've done some of the Habitat work in the US, but you've also been able to do some Habitat programs around the world. Can you share with me one or two of your favorite ones or most meaningful Habitat experiences you've had?
Yeah, there's a lot of them to choose from, but the first one I would say would be the one that we did in Egypt, just outside of Cairo. And what was interesting about this is none of us on the trip spoke any Arabic, and that's the main language a lot of them speak. And it was definitely we had to learn how to do a whole lot of charades and gestures and facial expressions to be able to communicate. And we were in this little community. It was a Coptic Christian community. The local Habitat for Humanity group partners with lots of different communities, and that was just the rotation of where we happened to be at that time. And we were around throughout that week around a lot of kids and families, as a lot of the people maybe might be out working, but there's a very high unemployment rate there. And there was a school there that was probably, I would say, from kindergarten to 5th grade. And they had found out that we were going to be there and really wanted these Americans to come and visit with them, and wanted to put on this little performance for us. And a couple of weeks prior to that, I had been visiting one of my younger sisters in Kansas City, Missouri, who's a preschool teacher, and just observing her. And they had been singing head, shoulders, knees, and toes. And it's the cutest thing when these tiny little people are doing that, and they're still trying to figure out where their head, shoulders, knees, and toes are. But that tune is pretty universal. And we go to this little school in Egypt, and we walk in, and the kids are just so excited to see us. We brought balloons and stickers, and for some reason they love to put the stickers all over their face. So they had all these little stickers all over their face. And then the teacher called attention to them, and they were going to sing for us. And next thing you know, they launch into, in Arabic, head, shoulder, knees, and toes. And we were just all stunned and just started laughing and started doing it along with them. And the kids could not believe that we knew this song with them. And there was this immediate just energy between us and them, that they were just delighted that we knew this song and that commonality. And that just helps you realize just how humans are humans and humanity is humanity, and we are a small world, and no matter where that person may be or their current circumstances, there's always somewhere where you can connect. Also, we had some of the kids were learning English, and my husband Bob is an extremely entertaining and outgoing person, and everywhere we go in the world, and he speaks no other languages, little kid, he's like the Pied Piper. They like run up to him, and he was working 2 stories up in this window painting, and there was these little boys all lined up below the window, and one by one they would step up and they would say, "Hello, how are you? What's your name?" And that's all they knew. And for 2 hours, Bob, while he was standing the window, my husband Bob would have this ongoing conversation, and they never got tired of it. And they very orderly would just change who was, doing that while we're working. So we're definitely are there helping build a house, which I should give a side note as we have no skills. We just do what they tell us to do. It is all about that human connection. And also it provides these families and a hope that someone else around the other side of the world that doesn't know them would want to come there and work side by side with them and just love on them for a week.
That's great. That's great. It does remind me that the average American knows so little about other countries, and Egypt's a great example. I think most people think of Egypt, if they think of anything with religion, they think of Islam, which is true. It's a large Islam country, but the Coptic Church in the Egyptian Coptic Church has 10 million Christians in Egypt. It has its own pope. It is an Eastern Orthodox faith that dates back from the time of the apostles, as they're very happy to tell you, as you know.
Yes,
and
very much so.
very eager to tell you, but it's not Roman Catholic. It's not Russian Orthodox. It is in the Orthodox family, but instead of having a connection to the patriarch in Istanbul, they have their own pope and everything. So it's a strong historic church that is not shrinking. Now they have some difficulties with life in Egypt as a minority faith in a larger, mostly Muslim country, but they persevere, as we say, right? Interesting. How about one other that you think of with your Habitat experience?
The other one I could think about was we were in Vietnam, and that is historically a communist country, and they're very prescriptive as to what Habitat can do there. And Habitat had a several square block community that they were building these homes that were 1 story, all connected. And the individuals who were living there were people that they had moved from working and living in the dump, and they would help work there side by side with us, and of course all year round, and then they would live in those houses and then turn around and help others.
Wow.
In there. And there are several things about that trip that were very unique. One was we had an opportunity to go to the dump, and in my mind, I'd never been to a dump, and I had the expectation that it was going to be very dirty and smell and lots of scavenger animals, etc. However, because these families and probably even single people or young kids who had been run away or something were living there, they would find everything and anything of value, and it was the cleanest dump we had ever seen. In fact, one of the things that I found startling was they had taken all the plastic bags, and you think about how much plastic we all use just going to the grocery store or something, and they'd taken all of those and repurposed them in another way, and you would see them all around, all taken clean and tied up, and they were all over the place. Just it was the tidiest dump you'd ever seen, because they had just found everything of value to be able to use. In the United States being such a disposable culture, it was fascinating to see this paradigm. And then relating to those that we had actually met on the site and working side by side with them, and how they were just, the joy they had in being there and being able to have a safe place that was extremely humble, and then to turn around and be so generous with one another. So that was definitely a highlight. Then another was my husband Bob was working where they were actually making their own bricks right there on the site, which was very unusual that they had that equipment. They would make the concrete and the bricks, and then they would lay them out to dry. And then when they were dry enough, they would move them to another area to dry further before they could be used. And Bob had a wheelbarrow, and he was hauling some of these things with him. And there was a little guy that was probably about a third of my husband's size. My husband's about a 226 pound, a 6 foot broad guy. And this tiny little guy was about a third of his size, could carry probably 3 times more than Bob. So they would be, I wish I had a picture of it. He was carrying all these bricks. You could even see the little smaller gentleman. And then there was my husband. And they thought that was hilarious, the locals, and working side by side. And we're so charmed by that, but Bob would just keep working alongside them. So he created this whole camaraderie with that group, even though, once again, they spoke no English. And the last night they had a celebration, and we were out to dinner together. And that group, all of them, which this is a sense of pride, they all make their own, what we would call in our world here, moonshine. And they made sure that they shared that with Bob as a form of kind of this connection, that they would look at him. They brought this, it was very special. They didn't normally bring it, but they had created this connection with Bob, and they really wanted to share, and had a lot of pride. And they brought that. And then my husband is from Tennessee, which is very much a big whiskey area. And there was, once again, then that connection that, okay, that was his background in Tennessee, and here we are in Vietnam, and they made their own personal that they were very proud of, and wanted to share it, and had someone who really appreciated it. And that was wonderful, just that moment, and seeing that. And he still talks about it. He brings it up as to something that was just such a profound experience in regards to that.
That's wonderful. Your experience with the people that had to live on the dump does remind me that the Lutheran Church actually has a history of working with the poorest of the poor around the world, and people that have to live in dumps. And I'm aware of at least 2 projects, one in Cairo, speaking of Egypt, and one in Lima, Peru. And I'm sure there are others around the world. Mm-hmm. Where we've gone there just to help the people who have to live in tough places. And at the same time, they make the best of them, as you've described. So
absolutely do. Absolutely do.
So Stephanie, our topic on Hope Matters is hope. And how do you find hope in your life these days?
Well, it really always comes back to my faith. I realize time and time again, when I get caught up in all of the negative, that you can find, if you want to look for it, you can find it, whether it's in the news, maybe people that you know in your life. It's just everywhere if you would like to look for it. And you can get really caught up in that. It's like you'll have people say getting into a rabbit hole, particularly if you are online and you click one thing, then you click another thing. And what I always come back to and have to have the self-awareness of is that we are not in control. And thank goodness. And because of that, I really want to focus on just what I can control, which is my own attitude and what I do, and reaching out to other people and making a difference just by what I am doing. And I feel like we're just called to love one another, and not to focus in the area of, well, let me judge you and tell you why wrong or any of this, but there's commonality everywhere. And if I could even bring something as small as a smile to someone's face who's having a bad day, that's going to give them hope, to bring them out of wherever they are, particularly, and a lot of us have probably read this, but the more of it we focus internally, it's easy to stay in the depths of despair. As soon as we turn our focus outward to others, which is really what I feel we're called to do, then that is really what gives you hope. There's a good reason why we've all been placed on this earth and we're not entirely self-sufficient, because we need one another. And having that need and then realizing where and who really is in control, well, that's what always gives me hope. And humans are amazing and a real gift.
Wonderful, thank you. And I know that you express that in your work for Habitat Humanity, in your occupation, in your, all the social ministry and social justice work you do through your congregation also. So thank you for that. And thank you for joining us today on Hope Matters. Stephanie, I'm really pleased that we were able to do this and have a chance to talk in this way. And if people might need some help with their financial matters, can they reach out to you?
They sure can. If you just Googled my name, Stephanie Shields, at Thrivent, THRIVENT. I'm in Costa Mesa, California. You'll find my website. And if you have a question or something, feel free to email me.
Thank you for offering that. So thank you. And thank you for being with us.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Hope Matters. This is Hope Matters, a production of Mount Olive Lutheran Church in Santa Monica, California. I'm Pastor Shafer, the senior pastor here at Mount Olive. Our guest today was Stephanie Shields, a financial advisor and active person in work with the poor and the poor and the rich around her community and around the world. And Stephanie, we're so glad you were with us. This is Hope Matters. We produce this program because we believe that hope matters, and we believe we have a God of hope. Thank you for joining us.